with over 33 years in general practice as a nurse, a practice manager, and now in leadership with us at the Training Hub. Tricia brings a wealth of experience and insight. She's passionate about relationships built in primary care, absolute a joy, a creative joy to work with, and is so passionate about driving our next generation of nurses. Today we'll share her journey, what drew her to general practice, and the moments and people who've inspired her along the way in this 10 talk. The patients know your name, and so do their grandchildren. So please welcome with me Tricia Vickers. So Tricia, let's start from the beginning. Welcome. What first drew you to nursing, and how did you find your way into the world of primary care?
Thanks, Carla, and thanks for the opportunity to share my journey. I never intended on being a nurse. I was going to be more creative. I was going to art college, but my mum and dad both worked as nurses in a mental hospital, and I got a job as a healthcare support worker. I think really just to supplement my college work, really. But I loved it. I'd lived around hospitals all my life, and I think then I just fell naturally into it. So I did do my 3 in adult nurse training at a local hospital, and again I loved the experience. I have to admit that I wasn't a natural at first. I was a fainter, quite famous actually. I fainted in theatres, had to be taken out. I fainted in A&E, and my most dramatic faint of all time was in the labour ward during a poor woman giving birth, and I chose to faint at the end of the bed. Had to fumble my way out of the room into an office, and I flopped down on a chair, which happened to be the matron's office. She was sat behind the desk kind of doing that, looking at me over the glasses, kind of looked like, what are you doing? But I think I put it all down to character building. I knew what the patient felt like under pressure, and I think it probably made me be a bit more empathetic and compassionate towards patients when they were in hospital. You'll be pleased to hear that I did get over the fainting. I went on to be a staff nurse on a busy surgical ward where I dealt with all kinds of emergency situations. The most memorable was 2 burst abdomens following surgery, and their intestines plopped out onto the stomachs, gangrene and all kind of things like that. And I didn't faint once, so I got used to it. I got married to my hubby, and we celebrated 37 years of being married this year. I've got 1 lovely daughter and a grandson. And I think at that stage in my career, I was looking for the next stage to settle down into a career. And a friend had recently started as a practice nurse and told me about a vacancy in a local practice. I hadn't given it much thought because I hadn't had primary care experience as a student. It wasn't on my radar at all. And I went for the job and I got it. I was later told by a receptionist, I remember this well as well, is that it was a close call between me and another nurse, but my flowery jumper swung the vote. So they offered me the job. So bear that in mind when you're going for your interviews. And that's how I started my first career back in 1992 as a practice nurse.
Wow, that's an amazing story. From fainting to flowery jumpers.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what we should have called it today. Well, so can you remember when you first started as a practice nurse then? What made you think yes, this is exactly where I'm meant to be now?
Yeah, I do remember it really well. I fell in love with practice nursing pretty much from the first day, if I'm honest. And it is going to sound a bit shallow, but I was given my own room, and it had a little name on the door. Now, admittedly, the room was the size of a large broom cupboard. And in those days, we didn't have a computer on the desk. It was a large calendar, a diary, a pen, and paper notes in little boxes. Used to get paper cuts every day trying to put the notes back in. But I think seriously, having my own room created a bit of a safe space for me to get to know the person behind the patient. And patients come in for a review, they came in for COPD or diabetes, and often they've come in because they've got poor control. And there's pressure to complete all the clinical checks to get the tick boxes on for QOF and all the other reasons. But there's also another reason usually why they've got poor control, and you have the time to speak to the person to get them to feel comfortable to open up. It is a safe place, and then you can uncover the real reason why the health is suffering. It can be because they live alone now, they can't be bothered to cook for themselves, the dog has just died, that was very common, they didn't go out for walks anymore, they get behind with the bills, they've got financial problems. And this is when the real caring starts, the listening, the development of the trust and the connection with the person behind the patient.
So it becomes more than that sort of clinical reason why they've walked through the front door.
100%. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm sorry, carry on.
No, go on.
You're asking the questions.
I was just going to ask, what's something that you love about working in primary care that maybe you wasn't expecting?
Thinking about this one, I mean, I didn't expect to be there 33 years later. I didn't expect to make such lifelong friendships, which I have over the years, and that's been an amazing experience. But I think for myself personally, I didn't expect to have so many opportunities and experiences. I became a Queen's nurse. I had a reception with King Charles. It was Prince Charles at the time at Buckingham Palace. I met with the then Prime Minister I was going to say Cameron Diaz, but that's not right. David Cameron. David Cameron at 10 Downing Street, which are all amazing out of body experiences, really, from just being a practice nurse in the middle of my town where I lived for all those years. But it was a great recognition of the work that practice nurses were doing and how we're becoming very much more apparent to be valuable in primary care and the effects that nursing can have on the patient care journey. And also, I didn't expect to be able to support so many nurses with career developments and opportunities over the years. I've loved the career. And so I think all my efforts have gone in recent years to supporting others, to becoming, the nurse that they want to be and the best nurse they can be, and to make a difference with patient care. So I think that's what I didn't expect.
Amazing. So all those other opportunities and the support and mentoring of others was something that you didn't think that was going to happen when you first walked into the room cupboard.
No. You're learning the job yourself, so it's great to be able to give something back, and I didn't expect to be doing it at this level.
And who knew how influential you actually are, Tricia Vickers, meeting Cameron Diaz and King Charles. We're going to have to address you differently from now on, I think, Tricia.
Took you for a lot there.
So how do patients or communities make that job worthwhile then? What's kind of their role within that?
And they play a massive role, don't they? I mean, practice nursing is about building relationships, I've already said, with patients and the families. I've given baby immunisations to babies who have then grown up, and then they've brought their babies in for me to give them their immunisations. So they trust you. You're a trusted face in the practice. And you don't just see patients when they're ill. You're supporting them from across the lifespan. And I think that's really important. Feedback from patients makes it all more meaningful. You make me feel relaxed. I felt I could talk to you about my problems, and often just a simple card saying thank you means that you've made a difference. But this still gives me the tingles when I think about the COVID clinics. From a community perspective, I think when you look back at how the community rallied around to support practices with the COVID vaccine clinics, we had volunteers, they came to direct the traffic, they wiped the chairs, they pushed patients in wheelchairs. But I will never forget the very first patient I gave a COVID vaccine to. And we did the over 90s group, and an elderly gentleman came to me, and he'd got his mask on and his little watery eyes. The first time he'd been out of his home probably for over a year. And he was so grateful for me to give him that vaccine, because to him at that point it was life-saving, wasn't it? We thought it was at the time. And he'd come out for this vaccine, and he felt trusted that we would give it to him in a safe environment. And so, yeah, I think that was really, when I know that what we do is very meaningful to patients.
It was such a tough time, wasn't it, as well? And to be so frightened and isolated like that must have been a breath of fresh air to see you on the other side of that injection. I know we're over time and I don't normally do this, but because I know you're so passionate about students, I'm just wondering if you could leave us with something that you would say to a student nurse who is unsure about a career in primary care. What would you tell them?
I've got a long answer to this. Sorry, Carla, but I'll try and be quick as I can. Don't overlook practice nursing as a career. Don't underestimate it. You've got loads of career opportunities. It's varied, it's challenging. As I've said, you'll see lots of different varieties of people coming in for support. From a practical perspective, I think it's really important, advise that if you're keen for a career as a general practice nurse, be prepared, be ready. Ask your university placement team for a primary care placement as early as possible, and then repeat it in your final year if you can. Contact your local training club for support in finding a suitable placement. apply to a university to complete the free Discovering a Nursing Career in General Practice module. It starts in September with named universities locally. Look on the Q&I website for lots of GPN resources, but speak to a practice nurse, get to understand general practice as an employer, ask about terms and conditions. And my final word was think about wearing a flowery jumper to your interview, because it worked for me.
Thanks so much, Tricia. I'm going to stop recording there. That's been